Red Pill, Raw Truth with your host Matthew Horbury. Exposing the lies, uncovering the conspiracies, searching for the truth wherever it takes us. The mainstream has been taken over. It's corrupt to its very core and can no longer be trusted. Our history is nothing more than a lie written to deceive us. Global education is a tool used to indoctrinate us into a system to control our very thoughts and stop us thinking for ourselves or even asking questions. The spirit of mankind is strong, and they know it. That's why they're attacking us from all sides using deadly vaccines, fluoride in our toothpaste and in our water, processed foods that contain harmful additives that have little to no nutritional value. They want you addicted to lifelong pharmaceutical drugs that make massive profits for them and cause misery for those that use them. They spray us with chemtrails that contain heavy metals and other toxins harmful to our health and poisoning the very soil we grow our food in. Using genetically modified food, known as GMO, they are turning the population of the world infertile so they can decide who is allowed to have children. Make no mistake, they want you and your family dead, with those that survive being forced to live in slavery in a one-world dictatorship where every aspect of your life will be watched and under their control. Who are they? The secret society Satanist scum that rule the world. Red Pill, Raw Truth. No stone left unturned. Every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK, on the Shake and Wake radio network, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will make you free.
And problem solving, and that's been in a number of sort of areas of software, mainly what's called real-time software, and things like telecommunications. So I'm used to dealing with quite a lot of technical information. Some people think I'm a scientist because they say that I talk a bit like a scientist, but I'm not really a scientist. I did computer science and physics for my degree, but then I've been in a kind of nuts and bolts engineering role since I finished at Lancaster University in 1986. So, and then I ended up sort of getting involved with teaching and whatnot, and I ended up getting involved with the Open University about 10 years ago. So, you know, and I live in the Midlands. I live just outside Derby. My website is checktheevidence.com, so anybody that wants to find out about me can look at the About section and read the stuff there, which expands on what I've just said a little bit. And there's a contact button, so anybody that's listening, please, you know, if you've got any queries, questions, anything you think is strange, odd, whatever, just write to me and ask me. You know, and I do talk to people on the phone sometimes. Some people like to do that. I'm perfectly open to that. So yeah.
You were introduced to scholars for 9/11 Truth.
That's right, and that was, you know, one of those sort of things which seemed to have happened because of my involvement with the Open University, really, because that was partly, you know, that sort of made me kind of a lowly academic. I mean, I can't say it makes you know, me a great academic because I've not got any advanced degrees and I don't teach on any advanced degree courses. But yeah, so you know, we're talking about 9/11, and one of the things that struck me about 9/11 was the destruction of the towers, which we'll probably talk a bit more about in a bit. But the key thing that I think, you know, both you and I realised, I think you probably saw it in Loose Change, and I saw it in a different film called the 9/11 The Great Illusion by George Humphrey. And he showed this illustration of the towers being destroyed, and he pointed out that the destruction of the towers took the same time as it would take for a ball to free fall from the top to the bottom, or it's actually slightly less than that. And I thought, hang on a minute, that can't be right. So I went away and checked that, and you can use something called the equations of motion to check that, and the acceleration due to gravity, which is 9.81 meters per second squared, for anybody that knows what that means. And I put those figures together and I thought, God, you know, that's true. And I realized that I could use that to essentially prove that the official story was false. That alone proves that the official story is false. You know, it really is that simple. And so I was going around posting this on a couple of forums, and one in particular was a physics forum that I'd posted this little formula on, you know, and put the numbers for the Twin Towers in. And, it was blindingly obvious to me that we weren't being told the truth. And this physics forum thread, that it's still there, it's now locked, but I think you can still access this thread on forum.fizzle. I forget the exact address. If anybody's interested in it, I can send them the address. I haven't got it to hand at this minute. So I think what happened was that this physics forum was being watched by somebody, and they knew that certain people posting on there about 9/11, had a bit more knowledge than others. And soon after I started posting stuff on that forum, I was then invited to join this group, which was called Scholars for 9/11 Truth. That was being formed by a chap called Stephen E. Jones, who was a physicist from Brigham Young University in the US, in the state of Utah. And the other chap that was involved with that was another chap called Professor Jim Fetzer, who's at the time I think was to the University of Minnesota in Duluth, or I can't remember if it's the University of Duluth in Minnesota or if it's called the University of Minnesota. I think it's University of Minnesota Duluth actually. And so those two guys claimed that they were skeptical of the official story of 9/11, and they said they wanted to form this group, and they invited me to join. So I don't know where you want to go from there.
Well, it were Stephen Jones and his thermite experiments what hooked me. It was like, oh, that's it, of course, look. And it was him. And oh dear, when I met you in July last year, I had all the pieces. I'd researched Hutchinson. I'd researched, we're going to get to Hutchinson later, but I'd researched Stephen Jones, which I want to get to again later. And you just put all the pieces together, and it was just like a big, you just picked the pieces up and just went, there you go. That's the picture you should be looking at. And I went, oh dear. How can I not have seen that? And it was like a big shock to me. And I went to the back of the hall where you had a little stall with all your DVDs that you sell for a massive price of 50 pence.
That's right.
And I bought them all. I bought as many as I could, and I just even when I went home, I went back to your website, because on your website you sell DVDs. So anybody's interested in getting DVDs for 50p, go to Andrew Johnson's website and you can get them for 50p. And I think I just collected all of them. I just spent a few weeks just going through them all and going through all the rest. It was like a major wake-up call for me, that in conference. So if we talk about the towers, you've got the two theories. You've got what happened, and that's been massively covered up. So you've got like the truth movement is like a cover for the real story, and the real story is being covered up. So it's like we need to find out what happened, and then we can talk about how it got covered up, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's great, Matthew. I mean, thanks for those words and everything. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that you and I kind of met, and you were in the right sort of, in other words, you got to that point where you'd already done a lot of research, and then obviously seeing what I put together helped you just put the pieces into place. And that's quite similar to what happened to me a few years earlier, because I'd also heard of John Hutchinson, who we're going to talk about later, and I'd heard of him probably about 6 or 7 years before his name came up in relation to 9/11 research. But yeah, it's very important initially to establish exactly what happened to, primarily we're talking about the World Trade Center site. We're not really going to talk as much about the Pentagon or the Shanksville area, not because, I want to cover that up, which some people might accuse me of, but because there's not as much evidence from those sites. And there are a fair number of witnesses at the Pentagon, and there are a few witnesses at Shanksville. Shanksville perhaps has the least amount of evidence, but there are some very strange things from there too to talk about. But of course, at the World Trade Center, there were tens of thousands of people that witnessed these events, maybe even more. And I think most of the TV images, what there were of them, were coming from New York as well. So we have the best chance of working out what happened because we've got the most evidence. And the key thing is, I don't really take much credit for this, because what I presented to you at the conference at the
wake-up call, which was kindly organised by Paul Giovanni and a couple of other folks there in Leeds last year, was mainly the evidence which has been collated by Dr. Judy Wood, who is really the driving force behind this kind of new understanding and new way of understanding 9/11 and what happened on that. She has really been the key person to pull all this together because of her experience in essentially in materials. She did a PhD in materials engineering science, and she's got a lot of expertise in those areas, and mechanics. She taught mechanics, graduate and undergraduate university, so she knew how things would behave when they fall down or when they come apart. So she knew all of that, and like perhaps I did, as you described, put some pieces together. She has put an awful lot of pieces together in terms of the physical evidence. And I did put that link in the chat window there, Matthew, for other people in our Skype chat window, but I haven't got your station chat window up. So if people want to go and look at the pictures on Dr. Judy Wood's site, there is a page of pictures which we could maybe
If you put it in the chat window, if you go to shakeandwakeradio.com, there's a chat window halfway down the page. Okay. If you just post it into there, this is where I'm going to be posting pictures that we're going to be talking about as we go through it.
Yeah, well, we might just pick ones then. So have you got that up then? That page.
I've got that page. I've got the page open, and I've got a notepad file full of URLs for all the pictures that are kind of relevant.
Okay. Well, I
might
was
be
just
more relevant.
Sure. Well, I just think if we use that page as a common reference because it's already there.
Okay.
Then, we can sort of refer to that. I mean, I think probably what might be best, Matthew, is we'll go through. Won't go through absolutely all of this. We'll try and go through some of the key ones because, of course, the best person to go through this would be Dr. Judy Wood, and I haven't actually spoken to her about. She may, she would. I think if she listens to this, she will be quite happy to come on, in a week's time or a couple of weeks or whatever when it fits in with her schedule. So I see the chat window there now. So if I paste that in the chat window, see if I can do that. See if that comes up. Okay, I'll just put my name in. Alrighty. Yeah, so I've just pasted that in the chat window there, just with my temporary name. If people want to, anybody who's listening want to click on that and just bring those pictures up. But yeah, so basically we're talking about physical evidence here, and what happened to the World Trade Center, because a lot of people, for example, think that the World Trade Center collapsed. Is that what you thought, Matthew, originally?
Well, controlled demolition. I thought they'd shipped in. You see, the people who come up with these theories, they cherry pick the evidence that fits their theory, and they ignore all the evidence that doesn't.
That's right. Right.
Anybody could do this. You could probably pick a theory that the World Trade Center came down by anything, and then you could just go around all the photographs, all the evidence, all the interviews, and just go, right, there you go, and I've got the proof. And you put a documentary together, and it looks really well and really sound, and it's just it just muddies the water. You've got to, like Dr. Judy Wood. She doesn't start with the theory. She goes, let's look at the evidence, and then let's find something that fits all the evidence. Because if it's missing some of the evidence, it's not a complete theory. It's not complete. Yeah.
Well, that's right. I mean, I could give the example that there's somebody that I spoke to in the research community. It's actually this woman called Sophia Smallstorm who's done postings about various things, including chemtrails, and she made this film called 9/11 Mysteries, which promoted the thermite explanation. That was a few years back. But then later she started saying that it might have been fluoride, which was used to destroy the World Trade Center steel. Can you believe? I mean,
it might be fluoride that duped the population into believing it.
Yeah, you could well be right there. So, you get all kinds of these strange things being said. But one of the key things to start off with is what actually happened to the towers, as I said a couple of minutes ago. And Dr. Judy Wood points out, and you'll see that this is actually true, is that the towers did not burn up, they did not collapse, and and they did not slam to the ground. They actually turned to dust in midair, or about approximately 80% of the towers turned to dust in midair. So in other words, most of the material that made up the towers was dust before it hit the ground.